Hello everyone, greetings from Châteaubouffemont. I'm Sarp, your host at this Châteaubouffemont vlog series. We are in Paris now, in Saint-Germain, Café de Domago. It's a super exciting day today. Today we're making a collaboration with Billy Folchetti, the founder of Luxuryevents. We're going to follow him to the flower market where he will choose the flowers and the decoration and the different objects for this wedding coming this weekend. He's a super talented, very creative guy. I love working with him. So he will share very different techniques and tips of how to choose flowers and decoratives for this upcoming event. So stay in, we just have to meet with him at his apartment now. Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm good, and you? We have the small dog with us today.
Yeah. Hi guys, my name is Billy Folchetti. I am the founder and creative director of Luxe Paris events. I'm so excited to be a part of the chateaubouffemont vlog and to introduce you guys and show you a little bit of my world in the event planning and design realm. I started Luxe Paris about 5.5 years ago, and what we specialize in is wedding planning and coordinating, but also design for the event space and flowers. So stay tuned as we go buy some flowers for the upcoming wedding, and I'll give you some tips on how to extend the decor, how to make it better, how to dress and decorate your event space.
Great, now we are in the car on our way to the floral market. So Billy, do you want to talk a bit about this coming event, this beautiful wedding you're preparing for us this weekend for these Austrian clients? What are their inspirations and what type of decoration and flowers you're going to choose for us?
Yeah, so this is a really cool client because it's such a small wedding, and you know, when people are talking about wedding flowers and decor, you know, a lot of times think, oh, it's a small wedding, so it's a lot easier. I actually think it's kind of the opposite, and sometimes a little bit more challenging, because you're dealing with a small group and you have to figure out ways to incorporate into the design ways for people to remain as a group and stay close and be able to, you know, have a comfortable conversation, but at the same time you also need to fill the space. When you don't have a lot of people, you have less tables, you have less chairs, and you have, you know, less items in general. So things that we've done for this wedding that make it kind of cool and special, for example, during cocktail hour we have this great little setup of rental furniture with a couch and a couple of small tables and some chairs, just to kind of make the look a little bit more interesting. And with small events too, it's fun because you're able to kind of focus in on some of the smaller details that maybe you wouldn't necessarily notice in a room full of 100 people. So we've got this really cool bar that we're incorporating, and we're doing we're hanging a chandelier in one of the trees outside. Just these kind of small special touches to make what could feel like a cold, big event space much more intimate and friendly and familiar for, you know, the small group that's coming to this wedding.
It's true, it's the 25 guests at this wedding, so we have to really use different spaces and outdoors, indoors, so we have a lot of space to fill up and make it to the best possible version of itself.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really fun too, especially I think in any wedding, but especially in a small wedding, is just utilizing the spaces that you actually have. So at the Chateau, for example, there are multiple salons, there are different outdoor spaces, keeping it interesting by keeping the guests moving throughout the day and not just keeping them closed into one room or hosting your entire event in one space. Use the garden for a little part of it, you know, for the cocktail hour, for the ceremony. Use, you know, one of the salons for cocktail hour, or even just for after dinner, you know, drinks before you go to dancing. Use a different part for the cake cutting. You can really kind of create an interesting environment by using not only beautiful flowers or vases or candles, but also the actual spaces that are offered to you.
Exactly, like this it becomes a complete great experience. So now we're almost arriving, so let's choose the flowers now.
So, tip number one when planning your wedding decor or flowers, I think, is that there's a big misconception that you actually have to match what your table decor or your table color is with, for example, what the bridesmaids are wearing. Remember that once you have 100 people in the room or you have 50 people in the room, everyone's going to be wearing a different color. So don't stress too much about matching perfectly your bridesmaid's dress to your table linen or napkins. You can have fun and get creative and play with it, and it doesn't always have to be super matching. So the next tip is more concerning budget when choosing your wedding flowers. You want to think about the flowers that you can use that kind of go the longest way on the table, the ones that maybe have more volume or take up more space. Hydrangeas are a perfect example of that because one single stem has a really big head and allows you to take up more space in the vase or on the table. So you're actually buying less flowers, but still getting a really full and beautiful look. So next tip, one thing to consider while you're decorating your space, whether it's for your event or wedding, is how you can incorporate potted plants into the design. It's a really interesting and kind of new and different thing that you can be doing to make the event space more interesting and something different that maybe your guests haven't seen before. It's also more green friendly. So topiaries like this could actually make a really great centerpiece. You could add some small cut flowers along the bottom, mix it in with some candles as we talked about before, maybe even add some lemons or some fruit to just add a little punch of color, and it's a great way to offer a little something different for your guests. So when you're planning your table decor or your general event decor, one thing that you could definitely think about as a great way to sort of fill the space and maybe some empty, an empty table or a sideboard or something that doesn't have any decor on it, a fireplace top, vases. I find my personal favorite is transparent glass because it reflects candlelight, so it's a really beautiful way to get a warm, romantic, gorgeous look for your wedding or event. One of my favorite things to use are different shapes and sizes that are interesting and maybe aesthetically a little different because it just adds to the overall look. And the other really cool thing about vases like this is that you could also use floating candles in them. So you're not always required to have to use flowers on everything. You could fill a vase like this with water and put a couple of floating candles on top, and it's a really simple and chic way to fill up and furnish more your event space. Okay, so next tip. Once you get through flowers and you picked out your candles and you know what your vases are going to look like, there's other elements of the table and the event space that could be really important, such as stationery. One thing I really love when we're talking about the other elements on the table, not just candles or flowers or vases, is taking the stationery off the paper. So for example, a double paned glass frame like this, you can buy these pretty inexpensively and bring them to your favorite calligrapher, and they can write table numbers on them. They can write names on them and use them as your place cards. There's a lot of different ways to kind of think outside of the box with these other smaller elements to the wedding that really add a special touch. Another thing that I really love with these is that at the end of the day, your guests can take them home as a souvenir from the wedding and put a picture in it with you or your loved ones that they take from the actual day itself.
Now we're finished with all the purchases. We are heading back to the chateau now. Watch until the end of this video. Billy has really great secrets that he's going to share with us. So let's go now. And yes, we are back at the chateau now, and I can officially give you my hello everyone, greetings from chateaubouffemont. It's the following day. I got my haircut, and Billy received all these flowers and the decorative objects for today's event. We are almost ready for the wedding tonight. So it might rain later in the afternoon today, so we may have to go with the plan B. Instead of the front garden, we'll be using the covered terrace on the side of the chateau with a beautiful whole green backdrop and some good nice stonework. So you'll just have to jump up right there and listen to Billy. He will take over and he'll continue with his tips and tricks about setting up the flowers for the ceremony and the wedding table. So here we go.
Hey guys, we are back at the chateau setting up for the wedding, and here we are with your next tip. As you're getting ready to organize or arrange or put out your flowers, one thing I really like to do is something extra special with the rose, called the peeled back rose. So what you want to do is make sure that all of your outer leaves, especially the ones that have little, that aren't perfect, little brown spots, things like that. You want to get rid of those. Once you've cleaned the outer edge of the rose, what you're going to simply do is take it with a few fingers here, put your thumb on the base of the petal, and simply let it naturally fall back. If you keep the flower between your pointer finger and your thumb, it's easy to turn, and you just go around the flower to each external petal that there is, and watch as it unfolds. Once you get to a point where you're about halfway into the center of the flower, what you want to do is just kind of take your fingers and just very gently open the center petals so that the rose opens up a little bit more. And there you have it, the peeled back rose. Okay, so another tip for you guys. When you guys are doing a small wedding of 20 or 30 guests like our clients are today, one thing we really like to do is try to reutilize the flowers from ceremony to reception. So you guys saw what we did for the ceremony, and now you can maybe put together a few of the pieces here and there that we reutilize for the dinner table. It's a great way to not only save a little bit on budget, but also be a little bit more green friendly. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
A great thank you to Billy. He's an amazing artist and the perfect wedding planner. I'll leave his contact details in the description below. He did a great job all along with all the other vendors who joined us for the event today, so you should go and check their pages. So I hope you found this video to be useful and got some tips and tricks to use when choosing flowers and decor for your wedding. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. While you're at it, give us a good thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to share this video with your most loved ones. Let them join the family. We will see you next month in the next video. Coming up.